What does every good Christian parent want for their children? Well, they want happy, fulfilled children who grow up to love the Lord and become good, God-honouring, responsible adults. But how? Here we have 7 ideas or 7 truths that will help guide us in our quest to bring up young people who love the Lord and live good, God-honouring lives. Truth number 1 is that it's every parent's responsibility to train up their children in the ways of the Lord. Deuteronomy says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength. And it goes on, these commandments that I give you today are to be upon your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home, when you walk along the road, when you lie down, and when you get up. Hey, that's all those incidental moments during the day, on your way to do something else, forever coming back and reinforcing the truths about how they are to live and how they are to honour God. But as well as that, it goes on. It says, tie them as symbols on your hands and bind them on your foreheads. Write them on the door frames of your houses and on your gates. And hey, that's intentional stuff. That's going out of your way to set strategies in place to bring up your children in a God-honouring way. So that's truth number 1. It is every parent's responsibility. Number 2, and this is a challenging thought, it's that state education. It's the default, but it's not neutral. C.S. Lewis told us that there is no neutral ground in the universe. And it's true. And in 2 Corinthians 6:14 it says, do not be yoked together with unbelievers. What did that mean? It wasn't really talking about marriage or about business partnerships, but it was talking about teaching. Paul was saying, don't submit yourself to a godly, God-honouring biblical teacher and then submit yourselves to someone who's teaching heresy. Well, why not, Paul? Well, maybe because it will confuse you. And yet we tend to do that very easily when we send our children into a state school to be taught the state's message. But hang on a minute. State schools don't teach other religions or wrong ideas, do they? Well, is the New Zealand curriculum actually neutral? It's not. Who really wrote it? Not who wrote it a few years ago, but who really wrote it from their graves? A couple of guys spring to mind. One of them, Karl Marx. Marxism is so prominent in the education system of our country. And as well as Marxism, we have Darwinism. The whole idea that, well, hey, everything occurred by accident. We evolved into what we are. We are our own saviour. And hey, there's no real basis for absolutes anymore because no one made us. So we just make it up as we go along and we try and invent our own reality. And whatever works for the majority, well, that's good enough. And that, I'm afraid to say, does underpin a lot of the state education system. Truth number 3 is that conflicting messages create confusion. This girl here, she's blonde, but that's got nothing to do with it. The fact is, she's confused because she's got God's message going in one ear at church and at home, and she's got a secular message going in the other ear through school. And she looks confused. And it's understandable. And we go back to what Paul said, do not be yoked together with unbelievers. It creates confusion. Number 4, a unified message from church, from home and from school will create disciples instead of confusion. See this girl, she is wearing an Emmanuel Christian School uniform and she does not look confused. She's understanding the messages that are coming into her mind because they are unified. It's one holistic message saying the same thing from all the different primary sources in her life. And that is every parent's responsibility. However they go about it, it is every parent's responsibility to get one unified message to create discipleship within their young people. Number 5, we all want to make a difference in this world. We all want to be salt and light. We want to help bring answers to this hurting world. But we've got to be clever in the way we do that. If we send our 5 or 6 or 7-year-olds off into the state system and say they're going to be salt and light at school, it sounds great. But it's a little bit like sending your children off to fight a war when they haven't been trained, they haven't learned how to use the weapons, and off they go to be at the mercy of whatever might happen. It's not clever thinking. perhaps it's not really that responsible. There is an alternative, of course. Number 6. Truth number 6 is that greenhouses are used because they work. Why am I suddenly talking about horticulture? Well, Christian schooling often gets compared to a greenhouse. It's isolating children from the real world where there are real knocks and real difficulties. It's putting them in an artificial environment. Yep, absolutely true. And to carry the analogy on, why do they exist, these greenhouses? Because horticulturalists know that ultimately they produce stronger, faster growing plants because of their sheltered start. Now you apply that to education. Children given the right experience at a Christian school or in some sort of Christian education will be stronger because of that in the long run. That's why greenhouses are used. Finally, Christian schooling is optional. But for Christian parents, Christian education is essential. It's an investment into the lives of their children. So if anybody wants to know more about Christian education or more about Emmanuel Christian School, you can find us on the website. It is www.emmanuel.school.nz.